Hey guys, I wanted to do a video on the 10 triggers of inflammation. Now here's the problem with inflammation. Number one, cancer tends to travel and migrate to areas of inflammation. Okay, so that's number one. And also, if you're in this inflammatory state, you have this immune reaction going on with histamines. Too much histamine in the body is basically a fatigue poison. It's going to make you tired. So you're going to have mucus, you're going to have congestion, and you're going to be tired, okay? So there's all sorts of things that you can do to reduce inflammation, but first we have to identify the triggers. So let's kind of cover all the different triggers. Number one, food allergies. That's the most obvious. When you eat something you're allergic to, you become inflamed, usually in the gut, in the intestines, could be in the small intestine or large intestine. Certain parts of your body could be allergic to certain things, but not other parts. Pretty interesting, right? So let's say in your small intestine, in the lower part, you can have an allergy to gluten, and that can create an ulcer or an irritation or even this inflammatory condition. So you have anything like colitis, diverticulitis, anything itis is inflammation. So the classic thing is dairy, and then nuts like peanuts. Those are the most common things that people are allergic to that basically create just way too much inflammation. Okay, insulin resistance. When you have this condition, you're going to have higher amounts of inflammation. You're going to be stiff. You're going to have pain in your body, in your joints. And of course, this comes from sugar. So sugar is highly inflammatory. So of course, we're not just talking about sugar. We're talking about all the hidden sugars in the juice, in the bread, in the pasta, in the cereal, in the sweetener. All that can potentially cause a lot of inflammation. And the reason I'm bringing this up is this just the most common reason why people are inflamed. And then as soon as they change their diet, the inflammation goes away. I personally, in my 20s, had serious inflammation of all the joints in the back, the hands, and I had this condition right here. That's why I had inflammation. And I was trying all these different remedies, but it wasn't working because I didn't get that basic eating implemented at all. So you have to fix that. Next one, cortisol is normally an anti-inflammatory hormone. Now, cortisol is an adrenal hormone. It's produced by the outer portion of the adrenals, and it's supposed to, in theory, get rid of inflammation. But when you actually have lower amounts of cortisol, let's say you have cortisol resistance and you have the situation where it's low in certain parts but high in others, or you run out of cortisol because you have adrenal fatigue, you can develop inflammatory conditions big time. There's a condition called Addison's, which is a very low adrenal burnout, where the person has inflammation everywhere in their bodies. John F. Kennedy had that, and you have to take a steroid. What's a steroid? Like prednisone? It's basically cortisol. It's a synthetic version of that. So any condition that involves taking cortisone cream, cortisol injections, prednisone is really an adrenal weakness. So there's so many inflammatory conditions, from autoimmune diseases to skin problems to poison ivy to arthritis, that basically is involving low cortisol. So if you have this condition, I put links down below for all these conditions, but if you have this condition, you want to strengthen the adrenal. Okay? Licorice, by the way, is a good thing to take as a natural cortisol replacement. Not the candy licorice, but licorice extract. But there's definitely a huge connection between cortisol and inflammatory conditions. All right, now next one is old injuries. If you have an old injury, whether it's a sprained ankle, a fall in the tailbone, breaking a bone, like I have, I pretty much, injured a lot of different parts of my body over the years, and it comes back to haunt you. You have these low-grade stiffness, inflammation going on in the joint because it's been damaged and there's not a lot of circulation in there. I have a lot of videos on what to do and how to address this. But if you do intermittent fasting, you can greatly reduce the inflammation even from old injuries, okay? So this is a really important thing to talk about, and people, they think that it's in the past, it's fine, but there's a huge connection. The inflammation will stay there. Infection, okay? So you're going to have inflammation because it's part of the immune system. The body's starting to attack certain things. So a lot of people have yeast or candida or viruses in certain parts of their body, bacterial infections, an overgrowth of unfriendly bacteria, Lyme. So there's all these different infections that can occur in the body, even from like a tooth that is damaged, that then leaks bacteria into the system, even into the heart. It can settle in there. So you can develop all sorts of inflammatory conditions in different parts of the body. There's even a very small microbe called a nanobacteria that seems to use a calcium igloo or a shell to protect itself. And so it's really hard to kill this microbe because it's protected. They're very stealth. So you have these small bacteria, they're called nanobacteria, that create this infection in the body and create more inflammation and more problems in your kidney, in the heart, tartar in the teeth. That's really an infection going on. So there's things to deal with that as well. One remedy to dissolve the shell, to decalcify the shell, would be something called EDTA. It's a chelator. Pulls the shell off, but then you would want to take a natural antibiotic. So anytime someone has this connection to inflammation, I always recommend herbal antibiotics. Clove is a really good one. Oregano is great. Thyme is wonderful. You can even take garlic, but it's actually really important to start clearing out the old infection in the body. And of course, you want to avoid the sugar that feeds it, okay? But infection is actually very, very common. But it's kind of a low-grade infection. It's not really showing up as a major thing, but it's hiding. It's a hidden infection. And the big thing that you're going to notice is fatigue. You're going to have fatigue. Okay. Oxidants. Now, this could be many things, from too much sugar to junk food to alcohol, but I want to mention free iron, okay? Free iron is very corrosive. It's very oxidative in the body. It destroys things. It goes to the brain and destroys. It oxidizes the brain. It oxidizes the arteries and basically creates like a rusting effect. And then the body comes in and to repair it with calcium and cholesterol. So that's called plaque. Okay, it happens in the brain, happens in the heart, it can happen in other places, but oxidants can create an inflammatory condition because there's an immune reaction going on. And by the way, microbes, both good and bad, eat iron. And so when you're actually, you start developing inflammation, the body starts to hide and pull the iron out in for itself. So as a survival mechanism, so the pathogens, the bad bacteria, can't eat it. So you could have this sudden drop of iron and cause even anemia from that. The point is that anytime you have too much iron, you're going to have more infection and more oxidants and more problems. Okay, how would you be exposed to iron? The number one way would be through a supplement. There's all these like very low grade, low quality supplements out there that are iron supplements that you're getting the wrong kind of iron. You want to get your iron from grass-fed, like either liver extract, you can get it in a pill, or grass-fed spleen extract. Okay, that's even better. You'll have enough iron. It's going to be wonderful. It's bound to a protein. It's not like this free iron. It's called elemental iron. You want to stay away from that. That's in the most popular synthetic vitamins. I don't recommend that. Also in wheat products, they enrich the wheat with iron. Well, you're going to feel it's going to be very heavy in your gut when you consume that. In Europe, they don't use that. Like in Italy, they will not use that. Only in America. Welcome to America. But iron is very, very corrosive. It's very bad. It can create a lot of problems in the body. Okay. So alcohol, that's a given. And also junk food will create more damage to the body and create inflammation. So again, that was my problem. I was living on junk food and drinking alcohol and wondering why I was inflamed. When the liver is damaged, you're going to have a lot of inflammation. Okay, omega-6 fatty acids, soy and corn oil, highly inflammatory. It's GMO. It's going to create inflammation. So you just don't want to consume these oils. Raw nuts and raw seeds have enzyme inhibitors. They tend to create a problem with your digestion, especially in the gallbladder. So when you consume too many nuts, especially if they're not germinated or soaked in water overnight and cleaned up and dried out, then you're going to have more irritation and inflammation in the body. So for some people, okay, not everyone, but that can be a problem. Now, the reason I wanted to add this in there, the gallbladder, is because this is something you're not going to find a lot of research on. It's just something I personally observed working with a lot of people, like tens of thousands of people over 30 years. A lot of times they have a gallbladder that is congested, from various reasons. Maybe they're eating junk food or too much sugar, but the gallbladder swells up. It gets congested. It becomes deficient in bile, and they get bloating and inflammatory condition in the gut. So their stomach becomes inflamed from that when they eat. Okay. You can also have high problems with cortisol and get inflammation in the gut as well, especially if it's like your stomach is flat in the morning, yet at night it gets bigger. But the point is that not only will the gallbladder problem cause swelling and inflammation in your digestive tract and over the gallbladder itself, but it's going to refer pain to the right neck and shoulder blade. Anything through this side that's inflamed, it's from the gallbladder. It's very, very common. So the way you would know that is you'd press underneath the right rib cage, massage this area for 2 minutes, bam, gone. Now you know you need to do something to help this condition. Probably change your diet. That might help you. All right, so I just wanted to kind of give you a summary of all the different connecting dots with inflammation. Hope that helped. And make a little note down below and tell me what you thought about this video. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, so there's a whole bunch of people that really need this information. So press the share button and let's get it way out there.